What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the podcast. It's been like 8 months since I've done an episode. It was originally that I was taking Christmas off, and now it's September. So welcome. And hopefully, if you got this notification, you're a little bit excited to see the podcast back. So basically, the new format is I won't be doing daily podcasts because that's crazy. I was able to sustain it for a little while, but I feel like there are not necessarily a totally limited number of subjects when it comes to wedding photography, but I definitely feel like going daily, at some point you run out of new topics, and I felt like I was kind of just rehashing stuff that I had already talked about. So instead, I will be doing Monday and Friday podcasts, so twice a week, and I will be releasing them probably. I feel like that's a more sustainable model. So I'm also going to maybe consider bringing on some guests. Maybe if you guys want to send me a DM on Instagram at Taylor Jackson if there are any guests that you would love for me to have on the show. I would love to hear what you all would think would be a good guest, because I'm not used to selecting people. I guess it feels weird, so I prefer suggestions, and then I will reach out to them and see if they're up for it. But in my experience, most photographers usually are okay with it. Also, brief interruption, Patreon September has begun, which means I am doing Patreon videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So if you are interested in the business of wedding photography, join us over there. You get all of my presets. Pricing went up today, actually. So my new pricing, my 2020 pricing, if you want to know all about it, you want to see it, and you want to see a modified version, because I am a hybrid shooter. And if you want to see what I've modified if I was only to do photography coverage, that's up there as well. Feel free to copy it if you want, or use what I feel like you're supposed to choose bits and pieces from everything that you learn over the internet to piece together the perfect business for you. So come over to Patreon September. Today we're talking about off-camera flash. Off-camera flash is something that I didn't necessarily write it off, but it was something that was a bit of a struggle point for me, using Pocket Wizards connected through a cable to a hot shoe that connected to my SB700 at the time, my Nikon Speedlight. There were a few pain points. The one pain point would be that it tended to not fire all the time, or it would kind of short out, where I would have to reset it by taking it off the hot shoe and putting it back on. And it just never really felt like a great system. I could never really trust it entirely. If it fell asleep, it just kind of came up with strange issues that you should just be able to wake it up by hitting the test button one time, but at some points it would just be asleep forever, and I would have to take it off the hot shoe, turn it off. In some cases I had to battery pull. So there were a lot of weird things going on with my off-camera flash setup in the past, and when it worked, it was great, but it didn't work a lot of the time in those clutch situations. And when you're set up to be using off-camera flash and it doesn't go off, you're really, really underexposed. So I kind of erred on the side of, hey, maybe I'll just use just regular, boring flashes on my camera. So I worked with that for a little bit, and I did enjoy it. But then a few weeks ago, I got the Godox, the V1, which is now my official, flash, and it's in my camera bag. The AD200 Pros are also really amazing. I've been testing those out this week, but the V1 is my go-to for wedding days, just simply because of its versatility, that you can use it on camera if you want, which I tend to do. Basically, my stance on off-camera flash is that I don't want to set up too much of a show. I don't want to make it look like too much of a production. I don't want to set up soft boxes or anything like that. So I make it very, very simple. One single flash on a stick, usually pointed at something that is white or a more neutral tone, so that it bounces light back into the room. My, flash strategy overall is to get that small little flash head bouncing into something that's much larger, so that when that light is coming back into the scene, it looks like it's from a 6-foot softbox rather than just being from a small little flash head. I also do my best to control the direction a little bit, so I don't want my flash just to bounce and just kind of cover everything evenly or from above. Or if you've ever shot your flash and you've tried to bounce it straight up on the ceiling kind of above you, and you're taking images of somebody that's maybe 5 or 6 feet away from you, that they get those kind of raccoon eyes almost. So the solution to that is to tilt it back and to shoot the flash kind of back and behind you. I prefer, if possible, when possible, to bounce it off of a wall or something that kind of gives it a full proper side direction. I feel like that makes a better three-dimensionality. Also with the Godox V1, the cool thing with that is that if you are bouncing it off the ceiling above you on camera, you can actually tilt the flash head back. It goes both forwards and backwards, so it'll give you a little bit of a back tilt, so you don't have to with my Nikon Speedlight, I had to spin it all the way around in order to tilt it back on like a 30-degree angle. But with the Easy V1, you just tilt it back. And there's a lot of good things about it. My favorite thing about the V1, I use the X Pro controller, which is Godox's controller for it. Also, when you're purchasing these, you have to make sure that you get the correct one for Canon, Nikon, whatever, Sony, whatever you might be shooting, because I think the TTL readout is a little bit different. So make sure you buy it. It'll be like a -S if you're Sony, or a -C if you're Canon, or -N if you're Nikon. So make sure you buy the appropriate ones. But when it's off camera, it doesn't really matter that much. But you might as well have whatever brand of flash that works on your camera the best possible. So that system just works entirely. I would say there has been maybe one time that it didn't fire, and that was because I was doing 1/2, so like half power pops like over and over again, and I was doing lots of frames, and one of the frames of like the 10 didn't fire, and I think that is totally a reasonable thing, because I was just exhausting the battery. I guess like traditionally with a Speedlight, and if you're using AA batteries with it, even if you have the extra little battery that does speed up the recharge time, it really just doesn't keep up that fast. But the Godox V1 uses the lithium ion battery, and it's very, very, very fast. You charge it in an external charger. I wish so badly that you could charge it by USB-C. Originally when I saw the USB-C port, I was like, yes, finally, like this is great, I can just charge it by plugging it into but I guess I don't have the power controller or whatever they need to put in there in order to charge by USB-C. But it's still not that big of a deal, and the batteries last a long time. At least like in my use, I'm very rarely shooting anything at half power like I kind of spoke about. I would say it is a lot more likely for me to be at 1/32 power, and at 1/32 power, these flashes really last a long time. I would estimate maybe 5, maybe 10 weddings if I was pushing it, just with my limited use of flash and limited use of power output when using those flashes. I'm not outdoors trying to overpower the sun or anything like that through a softbox. But if you are interested in that, I would recommend getting the AD200 Pro. That is a much more powerful, but also still small, and those nice lithium ion batteries as well. So if you are somebody that wants to kind of get to off-camera flash outside at a wedding day and bring that softbox or bring that Octobox or whatever you want to do, the AD200 Pro would probably be the one for you. Going back to like my actual kind of flash technique for when I am actually at a wedding and I am bouncing that small flash head off of something bigger to just generate more light coming back into the scene. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm trying to hide that light as best as I possibly can. So I don't want it to look like it's a flashlit scene, which means I also have some modifiers with me that can change the color of the light. So CTO gel, which is a fancy acronym for color temperature orange. I have a few different variations of that, so that if I'm like in a room that it's just really strong incandescent, like really orangey warm light, that I can match my flash to that light and then change my white balance on my camera to match all of that scene. So I'd be changing the incandescent lighting in my camera, as well as shooting kind of an orange flash to match the lights that are out there in the scene. And by doing that, you make your flash basically just blend in with everything and be almost undetectable, as long as you're not doing anything weird or light isn't coming from the wrong place. There's also, I guess, value in not using modifiers and almost using it more as a spotlight. So if you can get good light coverage, for instance, on a podium, and you can just like bounce the flash up off a wall that's there and just have it come perfectly in, that you can do some really cool framing from the back of the room with everybody else kind of in that warm candlelit style illumination, and then whoever's on the podium being more of a proper white. There is value in that. It's all kind of personal preference. It's not right or wrong any of the ways. So whatever you want to do, whatever images you like to look at, I would just go out and start creating, and have a look online for some off-camera flash videos. I did a bit of a tutorial if you're interested in that, but I am not the end-all say-all of off-camera flash. I think that I do a pretty good job as far as efficiency and as far as not being too obtrusive to the day with my off-camera flash. So I think that's one of the things that I'm kind of the best at, and I will take a 90% good lit shot and if I'm able to also kind of protect the guest experience as well, rather than getting like that 100% perfect shot and have like just setting up too much or making it really apparent what I'm doing and distracting from the actual scene and the actual person that's speaking or the couple or whatever I want to be doing. So I can't recommend Godox V1 and the X Pro controller enough if you want to get into off-camera flash. Everything just works all the time and it's awesome. If you are using another system, that's totally fine as well. That a lot of these principles that I talked about will still apply. I'm always shooting my flashes on manual power, but there are ways with the X Pro controller that if you shoot, or with the V1, if you shoot it and it shoots the TTL beam, that you can lock that exposure, I guess, flash power in place, so that it will continue with that, so that like one, you let it kind of make the decision for how much light it needs to put out there in the scene, but then you can kind of lock it down to be like that, so that if you're moving around the scene that everything stays consistent. I think consistency is key for just like bringing down your editing time and making it a heck of a lot easier to just like get through post-production. I think that's the biggest reason to shoot manual photography as well, like full manual settings on your camera, including ISO and aperture and shutter speed, is just to really speed up your post-production workflow. Or if you're using an editor, you're outsourcing everything, you can also just be like doing that so that they know exactly what you're trying to do, so that they're not guessing, like if you're like way under and the images are super blue, that they don't kind of make the wrong decision, that if you give them something that's pretty much correct to what you want to see, they should be able to take it from there and finish it off. All right, that's all for today. Thank you for joining me for podcast number 1 back in September here. Hopefully you're having a great September. Hopefully you had a good wedding season. My wedding season was a little bit crazy up until now, but September is like the busiest month potentially that I've ever actually done, because there's kind of an extra weekend collectively in September, and I have doubles and triples the entire month, as well as leading into the month I had a Wednesday wedding, which was a bit strange, followed by Friday, Saturday, Sunday weddings, and then the Sunday was the first of the month. So it's a busy time, but if you set your business up properly and you like just have everything in order, and you have all your second shooters so you don't have to stress about that, and you have all of your post-production outsourced, it really isn't that big of a struggle to just like be able to do high volume like that. So figure out your processes before you start to get way too busy. Otherwise you'll be super stressed out when that does happen. But I feel like you can only prepare for so much, and you got to kind of figure it out as you go. I'm like 15 years into this wedding photography thing, so I've figured out most of the things that I need to know, and most of the small efficiency hacks that go a long way collectively. So always be looking for those things that speed your workflow up or just make your life a little bit easier. And then over the next couple of years, everything will just kind of be working flawlessly, hopefully. So yeah, my advice for today, and have a great day. I'll see you again on Friday, and then the Monday, and then the Friday, and then the Monday, and then the Friday, and the Monday.